NASCAR has responded to 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, releasing a strongly worded counterclaim on Wednesday and threatening to demolish the entire charter system. This news came as a surprise and has generated an uproar within the NASCAR organization. In the latest development in the ongoing legal conflict between 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR, the sanctioning body has decided to file its own countersuit against the teams. According to NASCAR's justification for initiating this new complaint, 2311 FRM not only participated in the collusive conduct, but on information and belief, orchestrated it, and thereby violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. They claim 2311 and FRM tried to threaten, coerce, and extort NASCAR into meeting their demands after refusing to follow the terms of the new contract. NASCAR is also concerned about how the charter system will continue once the initial lawsuit is resolved. By claiming the charters are illegal agreements, plaintiffs have opened Pandora's box. If the charters are deemed to be anti-competitive, then either charters will go away entirely, or the cross-exclusivities that benefited both parties will be eliminated. While the original action claims that NASCAR violated antitrust laws, NASCAR also claims the same for the teams in the current countersuit. This is not the first time that 2311 and FRM have sought to impose their viewpoints, and those of their counsel, on the racing teams writ large. And it is truly ironic that in trying to blow up the charter system, 2311 and FRM have sought to weaponize the antitrust laws to achieve their goals. NASCAR notably targets 2311 co-owner Curtis Polk, Michael Jordan's longtime agent business partner, alleging he engaged in anti-competitive behavior. They use aggressive language, implying that he intended to change the sport's financial condition in a way that would benefit the teams while damaging NASCAR. Polk is accused by NASCAR of seeking to organize a boycott of NASCAR events, engaging in negative media campaigns, and actively meddling with NASCAR's multi-billion-dollar negotiations with TV partners ahead of its most recent media rights deal. They further say Polk threatened and bullied other teams to not break ranks while discussions were ongoing, and that he failed to accurately convey NASCAR's position to the other teams. Polk, who led the team's negotiating committee, was at the heart of the negotiations. It alleges that it had to negotiate with the teams individually because it appeared that the TNC and Polk were not providing all of NASCAR's offers to all teams' team owners. Throughout the 30-page book, NASCAR devotes extensive time to discussing the sport's history and the France family, writing in a way that refutes the notion that they are an illegal monopoly. They also emphasize the financial burden they bear in governing the sport and organizing events, repeatedly stressing how they have increased the amount of money the teams earn under the new charter agreement. The letter countered the notion that teams have never made a profit, pointing out how 2311 and FRM had expanded their business ahead of the 2025 season. According to NASCAR, the ultimate goal for these teams was to get permanent charters in order to collect more money from the sanctioning body through actions that eventually violated antitrust laws. They cite Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has previously expressed a desire to lead a cup team. The sanctioning body claims the Race Team Alliance informed him that the new charter agreement was a losing proposition and broken, discouraging him. NASCAR contends that this was a deceptive representation and one of the anti-competitive actions discussed throughout the document. NASCAR was harmed as a result of the collusive, threatening, and damaging behavior of counterclaim defendants, the filing reads. These activities resulted in reputational and brand damage at a time when NASCAR was attempting to renew its most important revenue stream, its media rights. NASCAR maintains that teams wanted a charter system in 2016 and that it provides minimal benefit to the sanctioning body, citing financial gains and the potential of the entire system being terminated. The paperwork reads as follows. Although NASCAR recognizes the value the charter model has brought to charter teams and is certainly willing to continue with the model on the terms mutually agreed to, NASCAR now finds itself in the ironic position of having to defend a model that NASCAR never asked for in the first place and which it would be content not to have. A major issue with NASCAR is that a December preliminary injunction allowed 2311 and FRM to compete with charters without subscribing to the 2025 charter agreement, at least for the duration of the lawsuit. NASCAR emphasizes that teams can participate as open teams if they do not want to agree to the charter agreement's restrictions, which would result in severe financial loss and not being locked into races with larger fields, such as the Daytona 500. According to NASCAR, the sanctioning body made significant concessions following arm's-length negotiations, including increased compensation, to demonstrate why they believe the new agreement is fair. They denied that NASCAR gave teams adequate time, alleging that discussions began in 2022. However, according to the team's prior filings, NASCAR sent the final agreement on September 5th and requested that they sign by midnight that day. In its conclusion, NASCAR formally charges 2311 and FRM with engaging in a conspiracy and agreement in unreasonable restraint of interstate trade and commerce by employing the aforementioned practices, therefore violating the Sherman Act. In addition to naming Polk, they claim that he knowingly and actively orchestrated and participated in this illegal conspiracy while working as a member of the TNC on behalf of the RTA and aiding 2311's and Front Row's participation in the scheme. According to team attorney Jeffrey Kessler, NASCAR's complaint is a needless distraction and a desperate attempt to shift attention away from the company's own illegal, monopolistic behavior. NASCAR agreed to the joint negotiations that they now attack. When those joint negotiations failed, they used individual negotiations to impose their charter terms, which most of the teams decided they had no choice but to accept. My client's lawsuit has always been about transforming NASCAR into a more competitive and fair sport for the benefit of drivers, fans, sponsors, and teams because of their love of the sport. Every major sport goes through a transition to competition when antitrust claims are asserted, and that moment has come for NASCAR. Today's baseless filing changes nothing. We are confident in the strength of our case and look forward to presenting it at trial. Denny Hamlin has even asked media members to double-check NASCAR's assertions in the most recent 2311 Racing Front Row Motorsports case. Today, the 2311 team owner and Joe Gibbs racing driver felt compelled to make a statement. On Wednesday, NASCAR filed a countersuit against Front Row Motorsports and 2311 Racing. NASCAR also had its first formal media conference on the matter. They had traditionally refrained from making public statements or addressing queries. According to Claire B. Lang, NASCAR's attorney Chris Yates, a partner at Lathan & Watkins, was asked about the team's expectations. Yates pointed out that clubs receive 49% of media money under the charter agreement, and Curtis Polk and 2311 never made their intentions clear. "I don't know what they think is fair," Yates said. "They have never explained that. I have no idea what they think the appropriate split should be." Yates also offered some more remarks. He addressed whether other teams could join 2311 and Front Row in the case. He does not believe they will. Denny Hamlin responded to Lang's lengthy answer written on her ex-Twitter profile. He had a message. "You should have a fact-checker in the room at all times," Hamlin said. "That's a fairly direct shot." NASCAR has launched a countersuit against 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and Curtis Polk. The proposal, made public on Wednesday, includes demands as well as number statistics. If we check at the files from Wednesday, we can see a few sections explaining Polk, the TNC, and the RTA's requests, so Chris Yates' claims could be a little off base. At the end of paragraph 53, NASCAR's lawyers write, "In June 2022, the TNC, led by Polk, presented NASCAR with its initial proposal and represented that it had been agreed upon by all 16 teams holding 36 charters at the time. That arrived with a footnote comment that went on. These demands included 1. $720 million annual payment to teams, 2. 33% of all new revenue sources that include team rights, 3. 33% of media increases, 4. Permanent charters, 5. A change of control provision, 6. Additional approval rights on material issues such as the race schedule, moves toward electrification, and new industry initiatives." So you might argue that this isn't really about media money. Yates was addressing the media money split among the teams. Additional information is provided later in the publication. Section 69 begins with the following. These revisions from the TNC involved numerous provisions in the 2025 charter agreement, including the charter team's demand that NASCAR pay at least 42.7% of all media revenues to teams during the term of the agreement, most favored nations clauses to prevent NASCAR from negotiating for different charter agreement terms with new teams, and other revisions meant to insulate charter teams from competition. Is there a definite demand? Or did 2311 Front Row and the team struggle to communicate clearly? What are your thoughts? Please share your ideas in the comments below. For the time being, the NASCAR lawsuit remains active.